talking about redesigning, retooling. But what does it really mean from our perspective? What does it mean from the Caribbean's point of view? Should we retrofit, put new gadgets on top of an old model? Or do we need a new model entirely? And why do we need a new model? What's wrong with the model that we have? And some of you, I think each of us has an idea of what we think is wrong. But unless we are all seeing exactly where we're going wrong and why we need to either redesign or retrofit, then there's nothing wrong with tradition and dependency. There are some traditions that are rather good, and some traditions that, if we had only stuck onto them, we wouldn't be catching hell with chronic non-communicable diseases at academic level. There's nothing terribly wrong with dependency. The biologists in the room will talk about interdependency, not so? And the importance of, in ecosystems of, you know, the predator depending on the prey and the food chain and so on. Maybe nothing wrong with that. But they will tell you why they think there is something wrong with dependency. They will tell you why they think that the traditional ways of doing things are not working for us. And so with that, rather than, you know, the usual opening statements as if the plaintiff has to, the prosecution has to put its case, I want to ask you, essentially, very quickly beginning from putting the youth and the experience or the veterans together, particularly Fitzroy, why have you gone the route that you've gone in hydroponics, shade production? Explain a little bit for those of us who aren't that familiar, but why did you feel the necessity to go this route that suggests sustainability and actually taking a product and using all of its outputs, if you will, to feed another product and keep a cycle going? So just explain that, and then I'll ask Keely to give her take on it from her perspective.
They're very harsh and very like this before. We custom to farm in traditional areas where we have period for rain and period for sun. It doesn't exist anymore. So in the havoc of sun, when you decide to do land preparation, here comes the rain. And here we are, we have a very high water table. So it takes a long time after you do land preparation for the sun to run in the plant. And halfway there, you find that the rains are there, you cannot plant. So it forces us to go down the other route in terms of shade production. What shade production has also done is to bring to the light and to the understanding of the farm what we never really understand when our policymakers say that we must plant more. The plant more is that you will bear some more pain because when the rains come and the plants are halfway the stage that it's finished. But now with the new shade house technology, we now have the full experience of what it takes to plant more. Because when I go into shade house in the first instance, I used to be doing a series of crops. And it was always there all the time. I never suffered because of the two extremes of the weather. Insect infestations are not there that much, even though the cost is somewhat at the initial stage high because of these additional things you have to do. But thereafter, the production by itself is standard cost. What I was saying in terms of grow more, we never really understood what it was. Because when they say grow more, and you plant 4 acres now, you plant 8 acres. And when the rains come in at the last 4 suffers. So because of shade house technology, I had to concentrate on lettuce. Because planting lettuce, I never had enough to sell. And the reason why when the rains come, the lettuce in the soil will go. In the place is too dry to also. And when it's under the shade house, you have to sell all the time. No, there is what you call network marketing. And they're the buyers out there. When they ask one buyer, where do you get from? And you got from this guy. And you also come.
How do you manage that network?
Well, because the demand is great, I am at the advantage end of it.
This is a telephone thing? You call this person. How do you get that word out about?
You don't have to.
You don't have to?
No. The person normally come there, ask where you get from. And you already not coming.
So no social media, no Facebook, no Twitter, no
no.
IT solution? Shocking.
So what's happening is that
So tradition is working then? It can work.
It does work. Now, what I'm saying to you is that there's certain times when you won't get certain commodities in mind. And then in houses, they have persons who associate. They would ask one another where you get the stuff from. And he would say, get it here.
Restaurant?
Yes. One restaurant will tell another restaurant you want to get it from this vendor. And that then will also come and he will also tell somebody. So here you are, the receiver, and you just keep calling in every day. Oh, you're the same. So he said, yes. Can you let me know that let me have so much more? In order to hold the market, I have to paralyze the rest of the so I have like
is everybody hearing?
No.
No? You need to keep the microphone open.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that as it is right now, I have a little under like 4,000 square feet, and it's not enough.
Now, you've heard Fitzroy's perspective. You are the young hot superstar in Barbadian agriculture. I bring you greetings from my father, by the way, who's very impressed by your appearance on a radio program a few Sundays ago. And he's going to get a call. You're going to get a call from him about broccoli. But in the meantime, put your perspective on it. Why would we need to make a change? Or is it a retrofitting? Or is it a redesigning? Is it tradition that we have to hold on to? Dependency, put it in your perspective.
Okay. I think we need to do a little bit. I don't think that the answer is to throw it on the wall. We throw the baby in the bathwater. I don't think it's a case where we need to bring everything new. There is room for the new as well. But there needs to be a better blend of what we have and the new things that we can add. And my perspective, first of all, is that agriculture over the last 40 years, particularly in food crop production, has just led to 10 years. And that is a problem because now we find ourselves in a situation where we're being asked to be globally competitive and we don't know how. We have high bung rates on all of our agricultural products. And all it has done is created a sector that says we can be as uncompetitive as we want to be and we can still produce food to be competitive. We've not been helping our farmers. Our policies have been directed at telling farmers what to do as opposed to empowering farmers so that they can do what needs to get done.
Well, what is it that needs to be done? What is it? Is this grow more? Because you heard from Fitzroy, grow more. That's the overall policy from the Ghana perspective. Grow more. So what is it that
the first thing that needs to be done is that we need to switch from a producer-driven market to a consumer-driven market. The farmers, the farming community, and that is the first fundamental problem that we have. Because at the end of the day, here's what's happened. You've had 40 years since independence for most of these Caribbean territories. The countries have been developing. When you see the pattern of economic growth that you have as the countries develop, what you see is that the agricultural sector as a proportion of the economy shrinks relative to the growth of the other areas of the economy. And so no longer is it an area for government intervention like it was before. And it means that it should switch from a government-led activity to being a private sector-led activity. That has not happened. It is still a government-led activity. It should switch from being a producer-driven activity to being a consumer-driven activity because we're not at the stage of development as a lot of poor countries, probably with the exception of maybe Haiti. So we have consumers who know what they want. We have consumers who are demanding what the products are. And we still have farmers who are growing first and telling the consumers that this is what you must take. And as long as you're doing that, you're always going to get these kind of problems because the market is driving it. And our policies are centered around growing more, not working with the market to determine what we should grow, how much, what the consumers want.
Are you saying that the policy should be more market-driven?
It has to be market-led. Agriculture in the Caribbean is a market-led activity. And that is where your major fundamental problem is. This is where the dependency is coming. And when you look at the sectors, if you look at poultry, for example, if you look at the livestock sectors, where they have to know where the meat is going ahead of time, they don't have half the problems that the food and veg sector has. Because the food and veg is growing, and somebody's going to call somebody and tell somebody that you have what it is. But that doesn't work because the problem with the food and veg sector is that it has a short shelf life. And the other aspect of that is that we've not developed the value-added proposition. And in terms of value added, we always think sauces and hot peppers and seasoning. And we're not looking at the fresh cut industry, which is a $6.4 billion industry, no sorry, $5.4 billion industry in the US and the UK. And when you ask all the consumers in developed nations, value is what they're looking for. We're doing prepackaged. When you see the stuff that's coming down here, you don't have to worry about the imported bill of primary products anymore. Look at the frozen section in large supermarkets and see where the proposition is, and that is where our problems are. We don't see those aspects of it. That doesn't even come to mind. There's very little on the table discussing that, and that's where a lot of the discussion needs to be for primary production. The fundamental problem is that even though food is a basic need, because we as farmers grow food, it doesn't mean that we're going to say, we grow the food, you take whatever it is that we produce. The same way how that you have the medical profession providing a basic need to people, but there are the professionals who are doing it, not the government telling them how to practice medicine.
Yeah, but market-based medicine isn't a very helpful thing when we look at the United States. So the question would have to be, if you're so concentrated on the market in your policy, do you not foresee a situation where everything follows the market, the price follows the market,
the prices follow the market
have-nots, there will be haves and have-nots, there will be some weakening of that whole concept of food security. If you're so market-driven that people's needs of children for healthy alternatives, you know, the fast food industry will say, you know, I want more of this. The hotels already will say they want more of what you have at a lower price. So I'm just wondering, to what extent will that market-driven philosophy not defeat sustainability?
It won't, because at the end of the day, we are growing for the people in the country. We cannot produce a product that they don't want. If we produce it at a price that they don't want, it's not they leave it. The reality is right now we are, agriculture and food crop production in particular is a market-led activity. The farmers still grow, and when the market is saturated, what happens? The price drops to nothing. So it is already a market-led activity, but we don't practice it as a market-led profession. And that's where the conflict is coming. Some of the things that we need to do in terms of recognizing that what we're doing is, there's no best way in terms of production. We have this idea, we want the best way to do X and the best way to do Y. And I see agriculture more like the cell phone industry. If you can tell me what is the best cell phone around right now, then I would say, okay, but there's no best cell phone. There are Blackberries. Everybody might agree that going to smartphones is better, but at the end of the day, you can choose between Blackberry or Android or whatever it is. So the same thing with the agricultural sector in terms of what we're producing and what we're doing and the production. We keep looking for this best perfect way to produce food. And it is dependent on too many.
Sustainable way and an unsustainable way, you would have to say that.
There is a sustainable way, absolutely. But even many of our traditional practices aren't necessarily sustainable. The reality is that sustainability comes by understanding your environment and maximizing your output from the environment without causing severe harm on the environment.
All right. Let me leave it there for the moment, Kelly. That makes any sense to you? You heard anything from there? Because you're big. And the question is, you know, you've been able to maximize, you have tremendous market share in your country. How does that gel with what you've heard so far?
Okay, what I'm going to talk about today will be more on the ranch side of it, and the agricultural part rather than processing what goes on there. I was lucky to have processing involved in my operation because it gave me the consumer market trends. It taught me what the people want, so what I had to do. So, and that made us a lot more efficient because we had to follow, for example, in beef. You know, we were producing the regular Brahmas, the regular tropical type animal, and the market don't want that. They want the American style, marble beef, whatever. So we had to make changes in our genetics. Making changes in the genetics, it became more efficient. You know, we crossbreed. We had to then develop our pastures in a different way. Developing the pastures and reducing inputs. Okay? So we had to research what grows best in our area, what can we use, how to use it, how can we not fertilize anymore, you know. So we went from using 1 acre to produce 1 animal to 1 acre now producing about 2 1/4 heads without fertilizing, reducing costs, reducing the amount of fuel being used. We found grasses that came from Africa that work excellent in our area. We got some bugs called the dung beetle that, so the cattle fertilize the pasture themselves. You make smaller pastures, the dung is all over the place, the beetles bury. You make sure, you know, use any insecticide that will kill the beetle. So, you know, you create your own ecosystem within your farm. So much so that at our place, there's a crested caracara that flies from the north to nest in Panama. It has taken residence in our area, you know, because of the sea eaters. Let me talk about grass just a little bit more. It's a grass that produces 21 to 28%, 12 to 18% protein, 21 to 28 tons of dry matter per hectare per year, you know, and it grows well in the tropics.
Does the market determine, did the market entirely determine what you've done, or did you have other issues like climate change or variability in case of Fitzroy and so on? What pushed you in the direction of that you've gone in terms of creating a farm which is an ecosystem in its own right, using everything and reusing everything?
Competition.
Competition, market, right.
And it's also market driven, what the people want. But if you don't change and try to do it different, you'll get behind.
Do you think though that farmers, and coming back to something that Keely said, do you think that farmers should lead to as much as follow? In other words, to try to educate the palates of the consumer rather than merely following let's just say everybody wants iceberg, but there are other varieties of lettuce that could be just as nutritious, perhaps use less water, I don't know. Should we not try to educate people rather than say, well, everybody wants a lot of marbling because they see it on Food Network, so we have to give them that kind of food. That's what I'm trying to understand. To what extent should we lead as much as we follow?
You can do two things. The model beef and everything like that is all, these animals are fed in feedlots and stuff like that. We are doing not the exact same thing, but we are getting very good results and very good taste on grass-fed beef. And so we pride ourselves to say we have safe-fed cattle. That's very important. Food safety is so important. So we're not just following, we're also redesigning what we're doing. We're using nature and making as good a product as possible. And healthy.
And adding value?
Adding value and also working along with the environment.
So you label your stuff this way?
We label our stuff as grass-fed.
Grass-fed.
Yes.
And
that's safe-fed cattle.
And the market is responding to that differentiation that you're making in market?
Actually, it's a market trend today.
In Belize?
Well, yes.
In Belize. Okay, thank you very much for that, Alison. Your perspective now, moving from cattle to food juice, I don't know.
Yes.
Give me your perspective.
Yes, my perspective is from the agro-processing side of things. Though it's marked and influenced a lot by coming from public sector experience involving regulations, as well as in other areas where it's assisting with OTN on negotiating the processed goods part of it. But to answer to looking at the topic, redesigning and retrofitting, when I first saw it, I thought, of course, instantly, these are manufacturing industry type terms. where one retrofits to improve efficiency and effectiveness. You monitor the results. If it's not happening, then you go to the redesign phase. And perhaps I ask myself the question, in retrofitting is always the first option, but is it achieving the results that you want to achieve? Because it would be maybe perhaps the most economical option. And if over the years we've been, is it that we're lacking the proper measurements in agriculture to not send the strong enough signals that we need to go back to the redesign phase? And of course we're speaking generally. Now that is looking at the topic from a very broad brush perspective. From my personal experience in the agro-processing industry, I left public sector about 5 years ago, hearing a lot about the thrust to diversify and add value to your primary agricultural products, and I'm still young, but I was with all this energy, and I thought, wow, with my background in chemistry, I loved innovation. I did food chemistry, thinking of blending things. I conceptualized a project, fresh juice processing plant. All gung-ho about it, went to government, went to various financial institutions, and boy, I mean, I think the pain I got, and I felt right down there, would have had me easily in another field. And I did have some other choices available. But I kept myself around the people who provided me with that sort of, the backing, that sort of positive thing, and I shredded on until one day I was told, why don't, this is a developmental type of project, approach the development bank. And they supported it. We, of course, had problems we tried to work with a few individuals because the theme, we wanted to do fresh fruit juices from fruit pulp. But that was a problem in itself. What? And getting the fruit. And that is right. So you couldn't design and go take huge risk in getting funding to design a project solely on that. It just wouldn't work. No bank will support you. So we secured a contract for packaged water. It helped in seeking financing because it was with the largest chain and it provided some level of stability. But what it did, of course, it killed the initial impetus to develop the new fruit juice products forward. Notwithstanding, we stuck to it. I did some formulations. We had just 1 or 2 market trials, but it was just, we couldn't get any further until I came across Windfresh. Windfresh was looked at for, and they have, again, when we speak of things being private sector led, yes, it's a Windward Island government company, but very much private sector like oriented. And it was right along their objectives of propelling diversification, looking for value added. And so we formed a joint venture. There came Hurricane Thomas last year. So we got affected, but we got an opportunity to redesign. And we have been through them. We're getting pulp from St. Vincent and Grenada because they also have interest in these countries, pulping. We've developed some formulations, a mango tango, which is mango based, and papaya orange, and citrus. Now, these things, we worked on the formulations from, it's about 1.5 years. It involved going with the Vincentians, because it was their pulp. I must say, and that the amount of investment you make into that, even secure labels, packaging, by the time we were ready to produce, we can't get the grapefruit pulp, we can't get the papaya. So I have an inventory of, for instance, about 1 million labels that we can't do, but there is some mango available. So very soon you would be seeing it has not been launched as yet, but the formulations have been approved. We have the packaging. In fact, when I really should have brought some of these with me, but when Una May asked me at a social event a few weeks ago, I said, I want you to talk. I was not sure of what perspective that you would have liked me to speak about. I mentioned I'm involved in other areas, but perhaps maybe over the course of the next few days I can do it.
All right, but let me throw back to this end of the table quickly. The question I have coming out of this is, to what extent, you heard me ask it of Dala just now, to what extent do you now see public policy shifting? If you're saying that the private sector must drive this thing, you say that the market, what people want or need, should drive this thing. If you're saying that restaurants are calling, saying we need this and we need that, how does public policy react to that, particularly at a time when quick service restaurants or fast food chains are popping up across the Caribbean, even more so, and their policies are to bring in the inputs from outside, supported, you might say, by the World Trade Organization. The governments are saying, let's relax the common external tariff and bring in more of this stuff and drive the prices down. So how do you square that with the direction of that public policy you think should take? Let me start with you, Keith. What should the governments be doing differently that they're doing now in part of this retrofitting or redesign?
The thing is I know certainly in Barbados, the government policy is for sustainability, increased production, global competitive, market driven. It's all there. The policies say that. In terms of the actual, what is the implementation? What is the strategy to get these things happening? This is where the follow comes. This is where the challenges really are. How do you go about doing it? What you are seeing, what we want to do, what we want to see happen is, they say farming as a business, okay? I'm a farmer. I'm farming in the open field. My idea of farming as a business, I'm first a scientist, so I'm trying to find all the scientific information. I'm trying to pull out the scientific information that is going to give me the highest yield at the lowest cost, and is going to be sustainable, something that my workforce can do or that I can do. I'm looking for that information to come up with a proper model. A business is a repeatable process. Anything else is a hobby. That's what I'm trying to do in my business. Because it's a farm, because it's influenced by climate, because it's influenced by weather, it does not mean that we can't control many of the other aspects of it. 2/3 of what we do in open food production we can control, and the other 1/3, which is weather, we can predict. Because, yes, we can predict, and the prediction models are a lot better than what they were years ago. You go to cimh.edu.bd, you see what Adrian Trotman is doing. I've been following these weather patterns. Now that I know a lot more about agrometeorology, this is the natural climate variability. You may think that this is all climate change. It is not. I will acknowledge that yes, we have seen an increase.
The same institute that a few weeks ago said that say goodbye to seasons. This is the same institution that
I don't know who said
that seasons, as we know, have come to an end.
No, that's not true. That is not true. What you had, let me explain something. In 2009 to 2010, we had El Nino. It's a normal oscillation. Coupled with a couple other things, whenever there's an El Nino event, you get drought. You get a very dry season. And the El Nino normally starts from late in the year. Then we have that followed by La Nina. La Nina, and these things are standard things. Will you think that the
standard? So the intensity hasn't changed.
Hold on. What you have seen, it is standard in terms of the knowledge about these things. The people who are farming in developed nations, they are using these prediction models. They actually have varieties that they grow when they know they're going to have higher than normal solar radiation. They have pest migration models. They have disease models. They have all kinds of models based on the climate information because they can use it a lot more accurately. They know when they're going to crop their fields because they're expecting excess rainfall. You can predict climate 3-6 months in advance.
So you're saying that basically in the Caribbean we need to be more industrialized in our food production?
No, I'm saying that there's a lot more science and technology that we can use in our planet that helps us to make the kind of decisions Now, if I have 3-month information of above normal rainfall, I know that I need my beds to be higher. I know that I'm going to move away from crops that when they're waterlogged that they're going to cause problems. I know that I can tell my buyers, well, I'm expecting above normal rainfall, so there may be a lowering of yield. I know how to plan my business. I know that I'm going to have to apply preventative fungicides every week for particular things like downy mildew because I'm expecting this rainfall. And that's how I was able to produce crops when nobody else could get them to grow at the time when it was heavy rainfall, because I knew what was happening.
This is readily accessible information.
Readily accessible, and when you understand these things, then you understand about the system. When it says above normal rainfall, it may mean that you might have 7 days of the sun. We're not trying to get the people to create bulletins that will tell us when we're having 7 days of sun or 2 weeks straight of sun. You know what that does to a man who is doing rainfall production? And he puts saying the day that it rains and then after that there's 2 weeks of rainfall. All that crap in there. 2 weeks of sun. All of those are the kinds of things. We don't have that information to help us make the kind of decisions that will allow us to be more reliable, that will allow us to be more sustainable. If we have to apply fertilizers and we know that we're expecting X or Y, we may wait to another point because they might be leaching, or we apply less amount. We can do the amount of precipitation. There are evapotranspiration pans. There are we can use our rain gauges, we can check the amount of runoff, and we can determine how much water is in the soil. There are geographic information systems that can now tell you all of the soil in St. Lucia. I could tell you exactly what's the water holding capacity of all of them at any point in time with those type of systems. There's so many things that we can do to understand what is happening in our environment to help us to produce reliably and consistently. It is not magic.
You are one mad scientist, mad as a But Fitzroy will tell Mr. Fitzroy, shea production in Valentine was in the matter with that. You don't have to worry about rain and so on. You've controlled the environment.
I want to stick a pin there, because I worked at Hydrogrow Farms, which is the largest greenhouse production company in Barbados with 4.2 acres under greenhouse production for 2 years. And I've studied hydroponics intensively. And the reality about hydroponics is that you need something that is cost effective. Sweet peppers, tomatoes, herbs, lettuce are the crops that are most suited in terms of cost effectiveness for our shade house greenhouse setting. Because lettuce is coming out in 4 weeks, so the turnover is quick. Sorry, and seedless cucumbers. Tomatoes and peppers, you can plant them and they can stay for as much as 2 years. Okay? And then shade houses, our greenhouses in particular, are most effective when you are putting them more than 100 and 1,500 feet above sea level. Because the humidity in the tropics is lower up there. You put those on the low-lying aspects and you're going to get a whole set of pest and disease problem out of this world. And I can tell you, because not only have I experienced it, I've been visiting every greenhouse setting in the Caribbean looking for answers. And so there is a lot of potential for hydroponics for those particular crops.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I find a bit difficult is that of market-driven production. Because a lot of times, what we don't put into that puzzle is education. In other words, it doesn't make any sense delivering sugar if you know sugar is what's killing us, because people want sugar. So, to just do something based on market, just market-driven, doesn't make any sense to me. The purpose of making people do certain things or act in certain ways must be driven by education. And it's one of the reasons that I think that in the Caribbean, the ministries of agriculture, health and education should be merged. Because the policies across these three, and we have to stop talking food and start talking nutrition. It doesn't make any sense. Food is what's killing us.
It's the best fed nation on earth.
Right, America, if it wasn't so, America would have been in a solid position today. We know differently. So education is going to be key. You can't be market-driven without education.
Yeah.
Let me put it in context here. We're not doing the same farming that we did before. Because it is market-led, it just doesn't mean that you just throw everything at the market. It is market-led, but if you're farming as a business, then you have to look and see what the new business environment is saying. One, We no longer have businesses that are going to operate in the same way they did before and make the same kind of margins, doing the same kind of nonsense that they did before. Let's get this straight. We want businesses that have a social conscience, that are producing products that are socially acceptable, producing products that are good for the people, producing products in an environmentally sustainable way. Your consumer is asking where the product comes from, is asking how you grow it, when you grow it, what you're doing with it. They're asking all of these questions. People not just buying something anymore and saying, well, it's cheap, so I'm going to buy it. They want to know what is going on with what they're eating. I completely agree with him. It could be based on nutrition, because when you look and see the type of marketing activities that large growers of fruits and vegetables do, they're pushing onions, they're pushing potatoes, they're pushing whatever it is, and they're saying, look, this is good for you. It hasn't been carotene, it hasn't this, it hasn't the next. And as fruit and vegetable growers, the people who are doing that, we have a lot that we can capitalize on. Look and see what the consumer is looking for. The consumer is looking at the word fresh. 76% of consumers in the US say that the key word that drives them more than anything else is the word fresh. Hold on, but we are heavily influenced. Don't think that the Caribbean is so far removed from the US and the UK. Between the two of them, we dictate virtually what we eat. But if most of our food is coming from them, then what do you think is happening? We're watching all their cooking shows and stuff like that.
Most of their fresh food doesn't come to us.
Hold on. What you're seeing in terms of trends, 70% of people in Barbados buy their fruits and vegetables from the supermarkets. The supermarkets can tell you exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for prepackaged. They're looking for the same thing, fresh. They're looking for something that's wholesome at a reasonable price. They're no interested more. We're pushing the orange flash sweet potato because it has more beta carotene in it. We have 40,000 people in Barbados with diabetes. That's 30% of our population. We have more tourists who are interested in the local, authentic Caribbean cuisine. You have so many things. The drivers of fruits and veg, they want local, they want sustainable, they want local, meaning they want to know who the farmers are. They want fresh, they want natural. They're looking for all of these things. They're not interested in canned so much. Canned prices have gone down. They're not interested in convenience that's unhealthy.
But all the things that you're saying do not point to a large supermarket. They point the opposite direction. They point to farmers markets.
No.
That is something that is growing in the United States, where more and more people are saying, yes, we want fresh, and we want to engage with that food at the level of buying it in a very different way than we have.
No, this is what you have to understand. The supply chain is not everybody wants to go to farmers market. I can show you a survey from Rutgers that says there's a certain kind of person who might want that. But even within the supermarket and the packaging, now if you look at the bottom of strawberries, you will see the farmer who grew them. They're not putting it in the packaging, so you don't have to go to the farmer's market to know the farmer anymore, because they recognize that people still have busy lives. So we're trying to find a place between convenience but still knowing your farmer and still knowing the people who are producing your food and still feeling assured that the product is fresh. Farming as a business means that you need to, the farmer will determine what his business model is, okay? There are some farmers who are comfortable as middlemen. There are farmers who are comfortable just as farmers. There are farmers who are comfortable as farmers, middlemen, retailers. Depending on the business model they choose for their business, they will determine how they're going to go about doing that. I have determined that I'm not interested in being a middlewoman, but I have determined that I'm interested in having a product that is going to stand on its own, that is going to be quality, that is going to represent what I am about, that is going to have a social conscience, that, you know, so many things I've determined because that's what I'm about.
Julius, what I see I live in Barbados, and what I see in the supermarket is pears, grapes, apples, Del Monte pineapples, plums, and all of those pears and different things, right? So that tells me that, and of course if you go to Guyana, where I also live part of my life, is you see all kinds of carambola, sapodillas, pineapples grown in Guyana, and all of those fruits that don't enter our market. So what that says, the private sector that we're talking about driving the agriculture are commission agents. They go on to Miami and buy the food much cheaper than they can get it in the region, because the interest is making money, not nutrition. The interest is making money, so we have to deal with this. If you're going to, I don't know if maybe CARICOM can close its doors for a while, let us suffer a little bit and produce our own food. Maybe that's, I'm not saying this is the answer, I'm saying we have to find an answer.
But you know, they're not going to, because they're very, very conscious of the World Trade Organization. There are people in this room who will say we can work around that. I haven't heard from them yet.
Why can't you disengage from the World Trade Organization?
But there are ways in which you can work around that, and I hope I get to hear that perspective. But I think social marketing is a closer thing to, it's not market in the traditional sense that you have 30 seconds to respond before the next question.
To be fair, Neil, Barbados doesn't grow a lot of fruit, and then the tropical fruits tend to be climateric and they deteriorate quickly. So in terms of moving them, and we've not done the type of research that sometimes makes it easier to move some of the tropical fruits. But certainly I have been pushing the government in terms of encouraging the setup and the farmers of more fruit growers so that we can meet the fruit propositions, because we do need more local fruit.
We had a serious problem.
Everybody comfortable with this alphabet soup? SPS, everybody knows what we're talking about? Sanitary and phytosanitary.
Phytosanitary, right.
Just remember that this is going to be streamed and stuff, and I'm sure everybody understands.
Sanitary and phytosanitary measures under the WTO, which gives governments this flexibility to block the trade of unprocessed goods. Mangoes. We don't have a pulping plant in St. Lucia. Our plant utilizes pulped fruits. We have lots of mangoes wasted. I know Windfresh has been trying to get mangoes into Grenada, where the pulping plant is located, and they cannot. Because of the weevil or something, the Grenadian government would not accept the mangoes from St. Lucia into Grenada. And they have been apparently trying at the highest levels, I understand. So this is another example, real example of governments, where governments, if you spoke about what can governments do, focus on these issues. Focus on the little pointed issues that block the development, and we'll get there.
Right. The silver lining to that, let me just get Abdullah to respond there, because the silver lining, I'll put it to you. The silver lining is actually in Belize, because you have, for example, Pine Hill Dairy in Barbados, which is actually having its citrus completely manufactured down in Belize from Belizean citrus. So it isn't always a situation where it's CARICOM, not a CARICOM country, no, we can't let it in. There are ways where there are joint ventures and they're actually working. But what I wanted to ask you about is that I understand that you don't just sell the beef, you cook it, not so? Your restaurant. Explain a little bit about that, and how you move into that, gone beyond just primary production of your beef.
That was a slow process. When we weren't satisfied with the returns from just selling carcasses to meat shops in the city, we decided, you know, it's better we do our own process, slaughtering and cutting up, which led to processing, and then we went into pork. So we do a complete line of beef and pork products, including ham, salami, bacon, different types of fresh sausage, breakfast sausage. We have a system of deliveries. All this happens at the ranch. We have a system with 5 delivery trucks that leaves every morning, refrigerated trucks, and deliver all over the country. And we deliver retail packages. We also sell to restaurants and hotels. And yes, we have a restaurant, and we supply it with it's a part of a hotel. And so we say we have a steakhouse in that hotel. And,
linkages, boy.
Yeah, and yes, we sell our beef there and pork, but
what about education? To what extent do you educate the palates of the people you're trying to sell to educate them to help them understand, yes, try this, you will like it?
That's a long process, you know. It takes a lot of, but the easiest way to do it is, and we've we've drifted a little bit away from the advertising on TV and the radio and all of that, and we have set up where we send salespeople to a supermarket. They put up a little pen. Underneath of it, they're cooking and they're tasting, and we find that that has been the best method of advertisement, rather than trying to compete with everybody else on TV. But you know, somebody look at it, they taste it, and then you tell them it's in there on a special. You know? And so that's that type of close marketing where it's yeah, it seems to work better for us.
You don't have a problem in being the retailer as well as the producer and so on.
The retailer, we only retail at the ranch, so we just, you know, but other than that, it's we sell to retail stores.
And you own the trucks, these five buildings?
Yes, we the whole chain, the complete chain, from conception to marketing. But we also buy cattle.
What happens to all that manure?
It's the fertilizer that goes back on the ranch.
On the ranches, you don't sell any of it outside?
No, don't sell any of it. We also do some farming with citrus and grains as well.
Okay, citrus and grains.
Yes.
Okay, any other points? I know you wanted to make a point, Kitty, and then anybody else?
I wanted to respond to in terms of reaching the farmers. This is the key area when we talk about private sector led. If you have a group of people who don't understand where they are, where they need to be, how they need to get there, and you come and you tell them to do X or Y without helping to first educate them to where they have to go. I sit with many farmer leaders, and many of them they don't understand sometimes a lot of policy issues. They don't understand the vegetable industry and transition. They see the importers coming in and they're fighting against it. They don't know how. If they don't know what they need to know to do what they need to do, then at the end of the day, we're still always at that point. And my challenge isn't with the government, because really and truly the government just needs to provide the enabling environment. What it is that we need to do is that our farmers need to be empowered, that they can sit at the table, that they have sufficient scientific knowledge, that they have sufficient business knowledge, that they have sufficient support from the kinds of people who can give them the advice to allow them to do their business. And this is where we're falling down. We have workshops and we say it's successful when people turn up. We don't measure how many people have implemented what they've learned at the workshop. We don't measure or ask people if this is economically feasible, because maybe doing it in terms of the labor force does not make economic sense. We don't do any of those things. We come and we talk about value chains in very abstract ways. We haven't explained to farmers the importance of the supply chain, so the farmers are fighting with the middlemen, thinking the middlemen have no use when they do, because they need to consolidate produce.
And build relationships.
And there you go. We have farmers who don't understand what is the role of government. They feel that the government should bring all of the information to them. We have input suppliers who sometimes don't understand that their job, because they're in touch with the technology, is to bring it to the farming community. There are all of these linkages which we've not explained to anybody what they're supposed to be doing and how they're supposed to be doing it. And that is where the intervention really needs to come.
So the issue isn't so much education as much as leadership.
It is a serious leadership problem, okay? There is a serious lack of skills in terms of what you come to the table to negotiate with. A lack of negotiation skills, lack of strategic thinking skills within the farming community itself. There is a serious lack of appreciation or understanding for why it is we need to come and sit down at these things so often. Okay, where it's almost like the farmer will say, all we do is meetings. But if you don't have paperwork, you've asked me several times, why am I talking about America and not the Caribbean? I can't find a lot of that statistics and information. I can pull it all down so I can say, this is how I'm going to do a medium-term strategy for my sector for the next 5 years. I've got to dig through the archives, and the people who are supposed to know don't know. I'm going back to the Caribbean Food Crop Society conference proceedings from 1972 to dig up information that I can't find anywhere else, and thank God it's online. But this is the problem. I can't tell you a lot of stuff in Barbados and the Caribbean because I don't have it. So how can I plan? How can I plan for my sector and say we are here now and here are the stats? I can't tell you how many producers in Barbados right now are growing X or Y or Z, or where we are with X, or how we're going to tackle this.
That sounds
I don't have that information.
That sounds like a scaling indictment on the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute. Is that really right?
It is a scathing indictment on all of the people in the Caribbean community. All of us have a role to play. The farmers, the government people, all of the agencies have a role to play. It is not one or not the next.
Because of you spoke about the diversity in your business, or businesses now. I probably would be asking you this question, prompting you to add another business. Have you considered using the manure for fuel, to make fuel?
We did. We used to, when I was, I had a pork operation, and we used to do biogas, you know, and that would cook all the waste from the plant to feed pigs. I'm no longer in the pork operation. I'll go back to it. There was too much, and we had relationships with producers, which we had to respect. So I had to get out of the business for a while, and then reuse the waste in a different way. But I want to touch on something he mentioned, relationship, and it was between processors or buyers or middlemen and farmers. You have to create one good relation, because I have to do it, because I'm also buying cattle and pork from farmers, and you have to have a good relation. You have to make them involved in what you're doing. They have to understand the business. They have to know when prices are going up and going down, the reasons why. They have to be a part of it. You have to be sensitive to them as well. You don't just change prices because you want to change prices. You dialogue. But more importantly, we need relationship right now in CARICOM between countries. We don't have it. We have CARICOM, yes. But what does CARICOM do? You know, for example, I want to sell to Jamaica. I want to buy from Jamaica as well. There is lots of chicken and chicken product and sausages. I can distribute that. I would like to sell them beef, but every time you try, you have this barrier that says, oh, there is some kind of exotic disease in the leaves that will come and contaminate everything in Jamaica. That's not so. We have to get over these things as CARICOM. We're going to be left behind,
It's interesting that you should make this point, because one of the central and most celebrated cases of that has been the case of the Jamaican beef patty, about which we never asked where the beef come from. But certainly there have been questions about the quality, the wholesomeness, the disease issue with regard to beef patties, and had tremendous problems getting beef patties, ever famous Jamaican beef patties, to Barbados and to Trinidad. And I've never seen 5 veterinary officers turn up at a plant in Texas from the Caribbean to certify and say this thing is good. But yet, there was back and forth between the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, and 5 veterinary officers descended upon Jamaica's beef patty production to determine it's okay for them to sell. The question is, you would like to sell some of that beef. So that,
exactly.
But so it goes even further back in the chain. We were looking at the finished product, the patty, but we never asked the question about, really, where's the beef? Now, Jeff, you have the microphone, but it's really Greg who was supposed to call you.
He passed it on.
Ceded your time?
Julius, fortunately or unfortunately, I straddle both worlds. Art News and Development Support Communication.
Yes,
I'm here on behalf of CAFAN. Now, I would like to back up Keely, a CAFAN member, on market-led agriculture. Now, we have a $5 billion bill in the region. We have things like carrots coming in from Canada and various places. Now, if we just follow the market-led situation, we and attempts are being made with Mr. Demir and people in the hotel industry and food chain with CAFAN to try to get them to purchase from local producers. So once the farmer knows that his produce would be purchased, he would plan to suit and satisfy the market. So if we look at that food bill we have and look at import substitution, our farmers can be market-led, market-driven.
But you're turning the clock back 30 years. You're going to be told that the world has moved beyond import substitution. You're going to be told that we live
No. It's a concept in the head that we know that we can cut down on the imports once the supermarkets decide to purchase from our farmers.
All right.
The other thing is, in terms of farming as a business, what we found, CAFAN, particularly in the smaller islands where the farmers are older and less educated, that we have a problem with record keeping. So what we're trying to get farmers to do is to be able to look at basic production costs. Like for instance, dasheen. To plant one whole of dasheen will cost X. In terms of record keeping, that I've planted X amount of dasheens at a particular period, and 5 months down the road I expect to harvest a certain amount. Now, if we're able to do that, then we can approach our marketing in a more business-like manner. And these are simple capacity building that we're attempting to do with farmers.
I'll be quick. I just want to refer to the fact that we're speaking about redesigning and retrofitting agriculture. And we must remember that one of the major factors that is driving this process is the changing rules in relation to international trade. We all know about that. And I want to pick up on the point that Keely raised earlier about the bond rates. Just for your information, as Barbados moved to become a member of the WTO and to establish a compliant regime for trade, they removed what you call the restrictive licensing regime. And if those bond rates were not in place, we would not have like a poultry industry, we don't have a pork industry, we don't have onions, we don't have a lot of products that we have now. And therefore, those bond rates were really put in place to give producers some time to make the adjustment, because they come down over time. So let's be careful how we deal with the bond rates, because they are in fact a very important tool. And they in fact have helped to save some critical industries in countries like Barbados.
But quickly though, the poultry industry was a major beneficiary of that across the region, where the Caribbean said to WTO, you know, really, almost literally hands off our chicken. If they were able to do that with poultry, why are they not able to do that with other aspects of
it didn't really happen that way. I think different countries in the region would have established different rates at different levels. In the case of Barbados, I think the distinction is that Barbados removed its restricted licensing regime. That is, all this is automatic. Other countries have maintained those. So in the case of Barbados, when the bond rate is not high, that the bond rate is the only form of protection from entering the market. And therefore,
which is reducing over time.
Of course, and the cheap imports, you can't compete with like wars in the United States. I mean, that is dumping. So the reality is that we can't compete in some areas.
So the best way to deal with that is to educate the palate again, to tell people that the chicken that you're eating from somewhere else is not as good as our chicken. It does not have hormones in it. And I'm assuming that the Ministry of Agriculture is making sure that hormones are being injected into Barbadian chicken.
No hormones in Barbadian chicken.
Yeah.
No hormones in Barbadian chicken. No hormones in Barbadian chicken.
That's a chant to say you don't want any, or that?
No.
But remember, if the leg quarters come in, people will still buy it.
That's not right. That is not, because it's cheap. And can you compete on price? If you have the quality, if you're trying to push the quality game, because you're going to have a higher price.
But Julius, the part that you're missing is that price is only one part of the value proposition. The fact that it is fresh. No, it is not as big as you think. The fact that it is fresh, more consumers will leave a frozen chicken from the US for less money for a fresh one because of the perceived value associated with that fresh product.
This is not a soap opera or a sitcom. There's no wrapping up. The hero, the villain doesn't, you know, the guy doesn't get the girl. This is an ongoing story. And I hope that my colleagues who are in the room will continue, and those who will see this down the road will see the opportunities for asking even more questions and to drill into some of the areas that we need to report. And bearing in mind that I think there are really 5 big issues that we're going to have to deal with. Energy is one. We didn't get a whole lot of chance to talk about that, but I know that's going to be dealt with down the road. Climate change, we had some of that. A response to climate change is an issue. Ecological degradation. To what extent the fertilizers that we're pumping into the watersheds are killing our reefs and killing us. And water is going to be a fundamental story. Guyana has too much of it. Some of us in the Caribbean are going to get less and less of it, or at the wrong time, in the wrong place. And these are some of the issues that we're going to have to deal with. In addition to our import bill, in addition to nutrition, and in addition to sustaining the livelihoods of the men and women who feed us all. Thank you for your attention, and thank this panel for their contribution.